Okay, let's just jump right in. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that is, I think, the most fundamental and honestly the most terrifying challenge out there.
Mm.
Starting from absolute zero. And I don't mean you have a little bit of savings tucked away. I mean, we're talking about being financially broken, maybe bankrupt, or just, standing at the starting line with nothing.
Nothing but ambition, and you need a map.
You need a map.
It's the origin story for so many successful people, but when you're in it, it just feels so isolating, so overwhelming, and that paralysis, that shame, it comes from looking up at this huge mountain and just seeing no trail at all.
Right.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really cut through all that noise. We've synthesized the wisdom from entrepreneurs who built empires from nothing, and we want to give you a clear step-by-step blueprint.
A blueprint that's focused on three things, right?
Yeah.
Generating that immediate momentum, establishing critical cash flow, and then ultimately building scalable wealth. And the sources we looked at, they present this fascinating tension, a real conflict.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tension between two completely different paths. On one hand, you have the, let's call it the tough love approach.
Okay.
They argue that you have to temporarily submit to the system. You get a survival job. You put your big dreams on hold just to get some capital.
And the other side?
The other side is the mindset shift camp. They say, no, break free immediately, take aggressive, calculated risks, because your biggest asset right now isn't money. It's that you have nothing to lose.
So this isn't about giving you just one answer. It's about laying out both paths so you can look at your own life, your age, your responsibilities, your stomach for risk, and decide which route is actually the fastest for you.
All right, so if we're building a blueprint, we have to start with the foundation, the mindset. Because if your head isn't in the right place, the best strategy in the world is just going to fall flat. It's the first and most important hurdle. The sources were so clear on this. The psychological warfare that's waged against ambition from day one.
Talk about that. What do you mean by warfare?
I mean the societal control mechanism. It works almost entirely by getting you to lower your own expectations for yourself. There was this one anecdote that just hit so hard. It's something I think almost everyone has experienced in some form.
I think I know the one you're talking about. The teacher in the lecture hall.
That's the one. The students are asked to write down their wildest dreams, the company they want to own, the car they'll drive, the mansion. The big, unashamed stuff.
The stuff you dream about when you're not trying to be realistic.
Exactly. They're writing down tech unicorn, Ferrari, retire by 35, and then the authority figure steps in and says, that's lovely. Now let's be realistic.
Ugh, I can just hear the condescending tone. Life is hard.
Lower your expectations. Aim for a nice, secure government job. And it's so funny, like you said, because in sports or art, we tell people to aim for the stars. But with money, the social pressure is to just retreat, to conform.
If you fall for that.
Then you're done. This isn't some fluffy mindset stuff. If you allow the system to crush your hopes, if you settle for that realistic path, you absolutely guarantee you will never build wealth from nothing.
Because the work required just won't happen.
Of course not. Why would you work 80-hour weeks? Why would you make those sacrifices if deep down you don't even believe the massive reward is possible? It's just illogical.
If my internal belief is that the most I can make is, say, $60,000 a year, I'm never going to put in the effort to learn a skill that could make me $200,000.
Never. It feels like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
So your effort just naturally matches that low expectation, which means the very first decision before a business plan, before anything, is a conscious, aggressive choice to just break that cycle.
You have to choose ambition.
You choose ambition. And that immediately forces the second psychological rule. You have to radically filter who you take advice from.
And this is the painful part.
It really is. It often means putting some distance between you and the people you love, your parents, your partner, your best friends. They mean well, but
they haven't achieved what you're aiming for.
Exactly. If your goal is to build multi-million-dollar wealth, you just can't take financial advice from someone whose net worth is, $50,000. Their intentions are good. They want you to be safe.
They don't want to see you struggle.
Right. But their advice is rooted in their own fears, their own comfort zone. It prioritizes safety over opportunity every single time.
So the filter is simple. Has this person actually done what I'm trying to do?
That's it. If the answer is no, you listen politely, you thank them for caring, and then you discard the advice. It's self-protection, especially when you're at your most vulnerable, which is right at the beginning.
Okay, so we've protected our mental space, we've filtered the noise. Now we have to define the destination. We have to really define what rich even means. Because if the goal is just more money, you're kind of lost already.
You've already lost.
Yeah.
And that's where Daniel Dow's story is so instructive. I mean, this guy went through the absolute extremes
Wild success, lost it all, ended up back in his parents' room.
and then built it all back up again. And his big insight was that the financial number itself, it's an empty target.
He talked about the post-achievement woe, right?
Yes, you spend years, you sacrifice relationships, your health, all focused on hitting, say, $5 million. And the moment you hit it, you're just directionless.
Yeah,
The pursuit was the meaning, and now the meaning is gone.
because true success isn't the summit, it's the climb.
It's the climb. It's the skills you learned, the people you met, the experiences you had along the way. If you only define success by that number, you're setting yourself up for some serious unhappiness.
It also brings up that incredible irony about what money can and can't do for you.
Oh, it's a huge paradox. The sources were brilliant on this. Money can buy you a world-class personal trainer, a private chef, the best gym equipment.
But it cannot buy you fitness.
It can't buy fitness. That takes showing up every day. It takes discipline. Money can buy you access and luxury, but it can't buy you real love or a deep emotional connection. These things, your health, your relationships, they have to be maintained during the pursuit of wealth. Otherwise, the wealth is just meaningless.
So to make this practical, how do you define rich in a way that actually works? It has to be more than just I want to be rich.
Much more. You need specifics in two areas. First, define the life situation.
What does that look like?
You describe your ideal day, your ideal existence. Where are you? Are you living on a ranch in Montana or in a penthouse in Tokyo? Do you need the freedom to travel for 6 months a year? You get really, really granular about the environment and the activities that genuinely bring you joy.
So that sets the scene.
Yeah.
And then
And then second, you calculate the financial goal needed to comfortably sustain that specific life. If your ideal life involves a lot of international travel, well, your number is going to be a lot higher than if you want to live a quiet life in a low-cost area.
so you start with the life, then work backwards to the number.
Exactly. You figure out your ideal monthly burn rate, and then you can calculate the long-term wealth goal from there. It makes the number meaningful because it's tied directly to your happiness.
Okay, mind right, target defined. Now it's time for action. When you have zero capital, the first, the only goal is cash flow. And as we said, our sources gave two totally opposite but equally valid paths. Let's start with path A, the tough love approach.
This is the one that prioritizes survival. It's pure grit. This is for someone who's truly broke, maybe has debt or has a family to support. It's the blunt force necessity you hear from people like Banlock.
And the first step is pretty radical.
It is. If you have no money, step one is get a job. Any job.
And they are not kidding when they say any job. We're talking minimum wage, working at a supermarket, cleaning toilets.
Unapologetically. This is purely about getting immediate, stable cash coming in the door. And it's also a massive ego check.
How so?
The trap is thinking, oh, I'm an entrepreneur in waiting. I'm a future CEO. I'm too good for that. But if you can't even get and hold a basic job to survive, you fundamentally lack the discipline and skills to run a whole business.
You have to master basic cash flow first.
You have to. And that job, it's just a tactical move. It's not your life. It's the engine that's going to fund the real growth machine.
Which is the high-income skill.
Exactly. The whole strategy is built around what they call the side hustle bridge. So you get that job, it brings in maybe $2,000 a month. That's for rent, for food, survival.
Right.
Then all your spare time, your nights, your weekends, you dedicate to developing a high-income skill, an HIS.
Let's define that because that term gets thrown around a lot. What is an HIS, really?
Yeah. An IS is a specialized skill that can eventually earn you $10,000 or more per month. These are skills that solve high-value problems. Think high-ticket sales, performance marketing where you're managing ad spend, advanced copywriting.
Things where your performance is tied directly to a client's bottom line.
That's the key. You're not trading hours for dollars. You're trading results for dollars. That's where the leverage is.
So the system is work the survival job for, say, 80% of your time, then pour the other 20% into building the HIS.
And you do that relentlessly. Then, once that HIS starts bringing in more money than your day job consistently, say $5,000, $10,000 a month, that's when you quit the survival job and go full-time on the scale.
But I have to jump in here. That sounds absolutely brutal. Working all day at a draining minimum wage job, then coming home to work another 4 hours on a difficult skill, day after day. How do you not just burn out completely?
That's a great question, and the sources are realistic about this. It is incredibly difficult. The key, they say, is to manage your energy, not just your time.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means the survival job should be physically demanding but mentally simple if possible, manual labor, not complex management, so it doesn't drain your mental batteries. And second, you have to constantly obsessively visualize the goal.
A rich life we defined earlier.
Yes. Every single hour you put into that his isn't just more work, it's a direct investment in your escape plan. It's 1 hour closer to never having to work that survival job again.
So you're focused on the exit strategy from the job, not the job itself.
Precisely. It demands huge sacrifice, but it reduces your financial risk to almost zero while you build a real valuable asset.
Okay, now let's flip to the complete opposite. Path B, the aggressive risk approach. This is for a different kind of person.
A totally different situation. This is championed by voices like Mark Tilbury. And it's only suitable if you're young, with almost no responsibilities, no kids, no mortgage, maybe you can even live with your parents for a bit.
If your downside is just being uncomfortable for a year.
Exactly. This is your prime time to take calculated, aggressive risks to accelerate your income. Because the core insight here is that the biggest risk is actually not taking a risk.
The biggest risk is staying in that dead-end job.
The one that pays you just enough to be comfortable, but never enough to get ahead. We heard that story about the carpenter's apprentice who was getting bullied every day at work.
Yeah, he was miserable, but was too scared to quit.
Totally paralyzed by fear. And he finally had this realization that staying in that toxic place was the greatest risk to his future. So he just quit. Started his own business the next day, and it took off.
That takes a lot of guts. But it leverages that idea that you really have nothing to lose. If you fail, you just end up back where you were.
But with more knowledge. And if you don't want to jump straight into entrepreneurship, this aggressive path also suggests a different approach to being an employee. Strategic job hopping.
Which goes against everything we were taught about loyalty. Why is job hopping so effective?
It's just simple market dynamics. Companies will almost always offer a new external hire a much higher salary, sometimes 10, 20% more, than they'll give to a loyal internal employee as a raise.
It's called salary compression, right?
That's it. So if you strategically move jobs every 2 or 3 years, you leverage your new experience for a higher offer each time. Your income just skyrockets compared to staying put and waiting for those 3% annual raises.
So if you do choose to be an employee, pick a career where your value is based on results, not just hours logged.
100%. Sales, performance marketing, roles where you can point to a number and say, I did that.
Now, regardless of which path you choose, you're going to hit a wall. It's inevitable. How do you get past it?
This is where you have to commit to what the sources called multi-angle thinking. When you face an obstacle, you can't land your first client, you can't figure out a piece of code, and your first idea fails, you can't give up.
So what's the rule?
You commit to generating at least 10 different solutions before you let yourself be defeated by that one problem.
10. Why 10? That seems like a lot.
Because the first 3 are always the obvious ones. 4th or 7 take real creative effort. But 8, 9, and 10, that's where you have to think completely outside the box. Maybe call someone you'd never think to call, or try a method you dismissed at first. It's a psychological tool, really. The more problems that beat you, the more you start to believe you're not good enough. You have to break that cycle by forcing a win.
All right, so once that cash flow is starting to come in, we need to shift from linear growth trading time for money to exponential growth.
Yeah.
And that comes from leverage.
Specifically, leveraging what makes you unique. And this means you have to get uncomfortable. There's that great analogy. If Harry Potter had just stayed in the comfort of his cupboard under the stairs,
He never would have become a wizard.
never. Growth is always found in those challenging situations that force you to step up.
So the first practical step is an exercise. Actually defining what makes you you on paper.
On paper, you have to list your tangible skills, things you are genuinely good at. Do you speak a rare language? Are you a wizard with a specific piece of software? Do you have deep coding knowledge?
And it's not just technical skills. It can be natural abilities too.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe you're just a phenomenal storyteller, or you're incredibly organized, or a natural leader.
Yeah.
You might just dismiss that as who you are, but these are highly marketable assets in the real world.
But what about the person listening who says, I honestly don't have any unique skills. I'm starting from scratch.
And that's a perfectly valid feeling, but it's a perspective shift. That's not a deficit. It's a clean slate. It's a blank whiteboard. You don't have any bad habits to unlearn or a dying industry you're stuck in. You get to define and build the future you from the ground up.
And while you're doing that, you have to be so careful about those subconscious impressions other people put on you.
The "you should be a lawyer, like your dad," or "you're good with numbers, you should be an accountant." Those expectations, even when they're well-meaning, can steer you down a path that just brings you no joy. And you need that joy, that genuine passion, because that's the fuel for the mastery required to build real wealth.
So once you've identified that unique asset,
Yeah.
let's say it's speaking Chinese and you're also a great writer, how do you leverage it?
Leverage is all about creating differentiation. So being a great writer is good, but being a great writer who also deeply understands the DeFi market and speaks fluent Chinese, now you have extreme leverage.
You've created a market of one.
You're not competing with thousands of generalist copywriters anymore. You can charge a massive premium, but the most powerful form of leverage we found, and the most counterintuitive, is the leverage of having nothing to lose.
This still feels like a psychological trick. How is being broke actually a strategic asset?
Because people with money are afraid to lose it. They're risk-averse. They have overhead. When you have zero, you can operate with a level of efficiency and ruthlessness that a capital-rich competitor just can't match.
Let's walk through that gardening business example again because it illustrates this so perfectly.
Okay. So our starter is broke. They decide to start a gardening service. They need a lawnmower, a trimmer. Instead of going into debt to buy them, they... Hey, can I use your lawnmower, the one that's already sitting in your garage, to do your lawn?
The client already owns the asset, so the startup cost is zero.
Zero. Your only cost is your time and a little bit of fuel. Now, compare that to an established competitor who's been in business for 10 years.
Right. They've got a $50,000 truck, commercial mowers, maybe a storage unit.
They've got debt. They've got monthly loan payments, insurance, all these fixed costs.
Yeah.
The broke starter can easily undercut their price by 30% and still make a fantastic profit because their cost structure is non-existent.
That's incredible. The established business is actually leveraged against itself by its own assets and debt.
While the broke starter is leveraging the customer's assets, it's a temporary strategic advantage that only exists when you have nothing to lose. Every weakness has to be looked at through that lens. How can I turn this disadvantage into a weapon?
Okay, we have the mindset, we have a cash flow, we're leveraging our unique position. Now we need to put some structure around this. Let's get into the practical fundamentals of building a business, starting with what you called the business trinity.
Right. Business can seem incredibly complex, but it really boils down to three simple, constant components: people, product, and feedback.
And people is listed first for a reason.
It's the origin of everything. Every customer, every employee, every partner, it all starts with people. You have to deeply understand the people whose problems you're solving. If you miss the human element, the rest doesn't matter.
Then comes the product or service.
Which has to be a perfect fit for those people. It has to solve a real pressing problem for them, or provide some kind of immense convenience. A product that does neither of those things will never, ever sell.
And finally, the part that never ends, the feedback loop.
This is the engine of improvement. Business is just a constant experiment. You put something out there, a service, an email pitch, and the market gives you feedback. If you send 100 emails and get 0 replies,
That's feedback.
that is powerful feedback. It's telling you your offer is wrong, or your audience is wrong, or your message is wrong, and you use that feedback to get better. It's also how you justify your price.
How so?
If you can prove that your service makes a client an extra $10,000 a month, then charging them $1,000 or $2,000 for it is a no-brainer. The feedback loop proves your value.
But a quick warning on feedback.
Hmm.
You have to get it from the right people.
Oh, this is critical. You need feedback from paying clients, from people in the market. Do not ask your mom or your best friend. They'll tell you what you want to hear because they love you. And that kind of comforting feedback can be financially fatal.
Okay, let's talk about choosing the right business model when you're starting with nothing. We looked at 3 keys: recurrence, risk sacrifice, and niche. Why is recurrence so important?
Because it creates predictability. And predictability is the foundation of scale. Let's compare a one-off service, like building a website for $5,000. Once that's done, you're back to 0. You have to go hunt for another client.
It's a transactional treadmill.
It is. Compare that to a recurring service, like managing a company's social media ads for a monthly fee. You do the work to acquire the customer once, and they keep paying you every single month. That justifies the initial effort.
Can you engineer recurrence into a one-off service?
Absolutely, it's creative. So instead of charging a big upfront fee to help someone publish a book, maybe you take a small performance fee on every single copy they sell for the next 5 years. You've just turned a transaction into a long-term, scalable income stream.
Next up, the big decision. Risk versus sacrifice.
This really determines your path. If you open a physical business, like a bakery, you have high upfront money risk. Rent, ovens, staff, you're sacrificing capital.
And if you're starting from zero, you don't have that capital.
Exactly. So you look at an online service business based on your high-income skill. There, you're primarily risking time, the time it takes you to get good enough for people to pay you.
It's a much lower barrier to entry.
It's the ideal starting point. You are substituting your effort for capital. The choice is personal. Are you willing to sacrifice your social life for a year, or are you willing to go into massive debt?
And finally, niche selection. You can't be everything to everyone on day one.
Trying to do that is the fastest way to fail. Every huge company you can think of, Apple, Facebook, they all started in a tiny niche. You have to start with a micro niche to gain expertise and dominate a small pond.
Like the payment processor example.
Perfect example. Trying to build a payment processor for everyone, you'll get crushed by Stripe and PayPal.
But if you build one specifically for
barbershops and hair salons, now you have an angle. You can tailor every feature to their exact needs, booking integration, how they handle tips. You can go to them and say, we were built just for you.
that builds immediate trust.
Massive trust. And once you own the barbershop niche, you just replicate that model for the adjacent niche nail salons, then bakeries. You use the proven framework to expand. Starting micro gives you the focus you need to win.
Okay, we've built the foundation, the model, we have cash flow. Now we have to scale. We have to move beyond just being a solo operator. Let's talk about building a team and finding partners.
Scaling is all about that transition from doing the work to leveraging other people's time. And this usually happens when you start hitting around $30,000 to $50,000 a month in revenue.
And the sources made a really important distinction between the two types of people you hire early on.
They did. It's a difference between people who learn and people who implement. In those early stages, you need learners. These are coachable generalists, people who are willing to jump in, figure things out, and follow the processes that you, the founder, are creating on the fly.
So you're hiring for character and teaching the skills.
100%. The best question an early hire can ask is, how can I improve this? You're looking for that curiosity, that drive. Later on, when the business is more mature, that's when you hire the implementers, the specialists who can come in and just execute your perfected systems.
And what about partnerships? What's the one thing that makes or breaks a partnership?
It's loyalty. But that loyalty has to be backed up by constant high-quality communication. And you absolutely must have aligned core-wise the fundamental reasons you are building this thing.
What happens if those are out of sync? Like one partner is just in it for the money, and the other wants to build a brand that has a real impact.
That is a ticking time bomb. It guarantees conflict. The money-driven partner will want to make a short-term decision that hurts the brand to make a quick buck, and that goes against everything the other partner stands for. You have to talk about these things constantly.
And about working styles too, right? The structured person versus the chaotic creative.
Oh, for sure. That friction is inevitable. The key is to communicate about it so that the friction always serves the business and it never becomes a personal battle.
And once the business is running and growing, we come back to that idea of the endless feedback loop. It doesn't stop.
It never stops. The problems don't go away as you get bigger, they just scale up. The same rock of a problem you had at 10,000 in revenue is still there at 1 million. It's just a much bigger rock. You have to stay curious and keep applying what you've learned.
And finally, the long game. Protecting and growing the wealth you've built through investing. Starting early is it's everything.
It's the most powerful force in the universe for wealth creation. Time in the market beats timing the market. Every single time. That Fidelity study was just mind-blowing.
Remind us of those numbers on missing the best days.
If you missed just the 5 best trading days over the last 40 years, your long-term returns were cut by 38%. 38%. If you missed the 10 best days, it was cut by 55%.
That's staggering.
It proves you just have to be in it for the long haul. Invest consistently and ignore the daily noise.
But how can someone practice this without risking their hard-earned money right away?
Use paper trading. Almost every platform has it. But the key is you have to treat the fake money like it's real money. If you just gamble with it, you'll learn nothing. You have to use it to practice your discipline.
And let's talk about the danger of getting it wrong, specifically with leverage. That story about the friend in the UK was terrifying.
It was a brutal cautionary tale. This guy was on the rich list. He gets lured into this group promising these insane, unrealistic returns, 30, 50% a year, using high-stakes leverage.
Which means he was borrowing money to invest.
Exactly, which magnifies your gains, but it also magnifies your losses. So when the market turned, he didn't just lose what he put in, he lost far more. Lost his mansion, lost everything. Total ruin.
It just drives home the two biggest rules.
Yeah.
Never invest in what you don't understand, and if it sounds too good to be true, it is.
High leverage is gambling, plain and simple. Real wealth is built with boring, consistent, diversified strategies. For most people starting out, the best, simplest strategy is the three-fund portfolio.
We should break this down. What are the three funds, and why do they work so well together?
Okay, so it's all about low-cost index funds. These funds just hold all the stocks in a major index, so you're guaranteed to get the average market return.
No trying to pick winning stocks.
None of that. So fund number one is a total U.S. stock market index fund. This gives you a piece of the entire U.S. economy. It's your main growth engine. Fund number two is a total international stock index fund. You can't just bet on one country. This diversifies you across the entire globe, capturing growth everywhere. And fund number three is a total bond market fund. Bonds are safer, less volatile than stocks. They're like the ballast on a ship. When the stock market crashes, bonds usually hold steady or even go up, which smooths out the ride and protects you from huge losses.
So those three, you've got U.S. growth, global growth, and stability.
All for incredibly low fees. You're diversified across companies, countries, and asset types. It's a set-it-and-forget-it strategy for decades.
And eventually you want to diversify beyond just stocks and bonds.
Absolutely. Once you have the capital, you move into real estate, maybe hard assets like classic cars or high-end watches, things that aren't tied to the stock market.
And all of this leads to the ultimate goal. Multiple streams of income.
You have to diversify your active income, too. So if your main business has a bad year, you have other things bringing in cash. That's how you build a real empire. Revenue from a physical shop, an affiliate business, ad revenue, stock dividends, rental income. You build a fortress.
That was an incredible journey. From the absolute basics of the psychological fight all the way through the two paths to getting cash, leveraging your uniqueness, building a business, and then finally protecting it all. It really is a complete roadmap.
It is. It takes immense work, but the starting point is always that first decision. You just have to choose to believe that you can change your circumstances, even when you have nothing in your hands but the idea.
We spent a lot of time on that concept of leveraging your disadvantages.
Right.
The idea that having nothing to lose can actually be your single greatest asset.
It's a powerful shift in perspective, and that's the thought we want to leave you with. As you're thinking about your own journey, ask yourself this question. What is a perceived weakness or disadvantage in your life right now? Maybe it's the lack of money, maybe it's a weird educational background, maybe it's where you're from. What is that thing that, after listening to this, you realize you can actually flip around and strategically leverage into your biggest strength?
That's a powerful question. Think about that hidden advantage you have right now. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into starting from absolute zero. We really hope this gives you the map you need to start building the life you actually want.
We'll see you for the next deep dive.